I want to talk about the frickin' LeBron James commercial that runs twice in front of every fricking movie at Cinemark.
They pay us a lot of money for that.
My God, I usually when I'm in Chicago, I get there early, like early, because of the train.
Right.
And I've seen it 3 times in some movies. I'm like, but
You just don't understand that it's the thirstiest time of the year.
oh, trust me, I do. I'm a homosexual. I know how thirsty it gets this time of year.
Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And our guest this week is Cousin Jeff.
What's up?
Live in studio instead of on Skype this time, or if you want to call it a studio. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Our handle is CriticsPod. We are new to YouTube, though. I put like 99 episodes out there, so subscribe to the channel. Like the channel, give thumbs up whenever you feel like it. If you get bored and want to...
Did you check some of the analytics?
Not yet.
I was looking at the views, and like there's a bunch of 0, 0, 0. Then there's one that we called, I think it was the Quiet Place episode, which is just called Silent Sex. Like 100 views on it because we put sex in the title.
I'm going to start doing that with my YouTube channel.
How sad is it that people are searching for sex on YouTube?
Have you read the comments on YouTube? That's the kind of people that are on YouTube.
That's not what you search for it?
If you're just specific in your search in your incognito Google, you can find anything you want. YouTube, you're not going to find it.
YouTube's the second best social search engine out there, behind Google, though.
There's no porn on YouTube.
Oh, there's porn on YouTube.
There is?
It just
gets taken down.
It gets taken down really quickly. Yeah.
That's why you got to be on there all the time.
Hence the comments on YouTube.
What also gets taken down is anything that's licensed. So I'm wondering, the images I just grab off of Google Image, I try to make sure there's 2 or 3 of the same one, and then I go for it.
Yeah.
But, I could see that happening and being an issue in some of our old sound clips and stuff, if that ever came back up, but we'll see. But anyway, we are on YouTube if you prefer that. I don't know what else there is. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Alexa. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen to it. Rate and review the show. It helps with all the algorithms and whatnot. And then Patreon, ihatecritics.net/Patreon is the best way to help support the podcast. We also have our merch tab that is at ihatecritics.net. The winners of the t-shirt contest are currently, it's Cameron Diaz's shoulder in Batman versus Jesus. I have a really good idea for Willem Dafoe's suspiciously large penis. Really?
Which we'll talk about after the show, but
yeah,
As
that's
we do every week about Willem Dafoe's penis after the show.
I want the Batman v Jesus shirt. I like the Cameron Diaz shoulder and even the penis one. It's like, would I wear it?
You'll wear the penis one.
I have had people send me messages. I have an idea for a penis, curiously large, or was it confusingly large? I can't remember the acronym or the whatever the adjective,
yeah.
But it could be a shirt at Spencer's. I'm like, yeah, but it's not. So.
My sister won't take my nieces into Spencer because of some of the t-shirts. So.
I take my kids into Spencer's because they hate going in there. Largely due to the Chucky doll that's in there, having never seen Chucky. News this week, we'll start with The Banker. It's getting canceled. Apple's not, or at least they suspended it indefinitely.
Yeah, what do you do? The person that apparently, one of the people that's producing it and who's related to somebody the movie's based on has apparently been accused of sexual assault.
Yeah, he shares the name with Anthony Mackie's character.
Oops.
Yeah.
Just write it into the show.
They may have. That might have to be go back and reshoot something, or I don't know. But I mean, normally I would say, depending on who it was, find a way to.
I think the problem you run into now, I don't know if we've seen anything quite like this, is that this guy, no matter what form you put it out in, this guy's going to profit from it, and that's what's going to bother people. Is that this guy's going to be enriched if you do release this,
right? But I would say, I mean, if it was just any other co-producer, I mean, you have a lot of people that are involved in this movie, so you are hurting more people than you're helping by spending. However, on this one, it's just really weird because he shares the same name. There's a lot of weird things that are going on to this particular one, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know if it'll ever. I'm assuming at some point it'll go somewhere, but it'll never. You're not going to see it on mainstream at all anytime soon.
It'll end up on YouTube.
Trailers, Call of the Wild.
What a piece of garbage. Sorry, I had to just get in on that because what a piece of garbage. This looks like absolute trash.
I agree. It's Harrison Ford and a CGI dog. The only way I got through the trailer was pretending it was like a side adventure of Han Solo and Chewbacca.
I kept waiting for that dog to talk. I was just waiting for it to talk.
Could you imagine?
Harrison Ford in a talking dog movie.
What did I tell you before you watched it? It was Harrison Ford going full Dennis Quaid. That's the kind of movies he's been making lately. And I guess Kevin Costner's done it.
Kevin Costner has played the dog, though.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It was just like, everything about it was too much CGI for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you can tell it's CGI. No dog looks like that.
No.
It was like,
I mean, it was almost Roger Rabbit, like different.
Yeah, you know what? Better idea. Roger Rabbit, animation, Harrison Ford, live action. Do that.
All that heartwarming crap in the trailer. Oh, Jesus Christ. Just hammer you over the head with it.
Yeah,
he's never believed in anyone the way he believes in you. Oh, God.
Yeah,
you know that dog doesn't know what the fuck you're saying, right?
Neither does Harrison Ford.
Well, that's true. He's doing TV, and he's playing this garbage human being, Michael Peterson from The Staircase. Did you guys ever
No, I've
see
never
that?
Heard of this.
It's a true crime documentary about this guy who killed his wife.
That I've heard of, but I've never heard anything about Harrison Ford.
It was just announced the other day, so I was thinking, I looked up, I'm like, wait, I thought, for a second, the way he looked, I thought, is he playing Michael Peterson in a movie or on TV? And then I was like, oh, wait, no, he's in that dog movie, Call of the Wild. But, yeah. He's nearing the end of his career, shall we say, obviously.
No life, too.
Gene Hackman had the good sense to retire before he made a dog movie.
I was going to say something about Sean Connery, but there's Zardoz sitting out there.
I just wonder how much money they put into this. Because one, you got to pay Harrison Ford, and two, CGI is not cheap. And they did a lot of it in this movie.
Yeah, it looked like almost everything was.
Right.
There's no way they get any of those running dog shots.
Yeah, at least Charlie's Angels was only $50 million. They're not going to lose that much money. Sonic.
Well, it's a better look.
Yeah.
That's
still don't
I
care.
still don't. Yeah, I don't give a shit.
I never played Sonic as a kid. I have no connection to it at all, and that voiceover is not doing anything for me. But you know what's weird though is that James Marsden has a way of being good in stuff like this.
Because he's always in stuff like this. I mean, he's kind of what Dennis Quaid ended up being later in life.
Except for, like, visually, being an artist, visually, it's better. I had an Atari 2600, and I had a PlayStation 1, and I played, like, 3 games on Atari and 1 game on PlayStation, and I was done. So I never played this. It holds nothing for me. But when I saw the original Sonic face, I was like, holy shit, what the frick is that? And now I'm like, oh, okay, it's better. I'm still not going to see it. I probably won't watch another trailer.
You know, it's funny. There's the reaction that now people are the internet is coming around on this movie now because there's a lot of people saying, you know what? They listened to us. They changed it because we told them to.
Yeah,
we've got to get out and support it.
Are they saying that we gotta get out and support it thing, or they're behind the trailer?
They're literally saying that. Yeah, we need to. They did this. They spent $30 million to change it. We need to go out and support it.
And they do. I mean, that is cool. They listen to them, I guess. And I don't know. Fan service seems to work. I don't know if it'll make money.
Is that a dig at Josh?
It's a dig at Star Wars Force Awakens. But I don't know.
They didn't change anything in that movie to make the fans happy. If anything, they did more to make them upset.
Well, The Force Awakens? Last Jedi was the one that upset them. Force Awakens was, they could have just called it fan service.
Can I in the spirit of Frozen 2, let it go? I mean,
It's fun for me.
No, not you. I read a headline because I just can't do it anymore. I can't. Ryan Johnson talks about Knives Out and Star Wars, et cetera, and it was just Twitter vomit. And a couple people that I know that I'm like, when did you become this person? I'm just like, let it go. It's been 2 years. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Shut up.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of Michael from Galesburg doesn't like it. He doesn't talk about it much unless I bring it up or whatever, but he just says it's a Star Wars movie for people who weren't real big Star Wars fans. Because it just starts going in its own direction, which I don't know. We don't need to talk about it till later on. There's another one coming out.
Well, I won't be here for that one, will I?
If you want to keep talking about Last Jedi, we can. It's my favorite Star Wars movie.
I happen to really like it, and I'm a huge Star Wars nerd.
Yeah, Josh liked it too.
I did. Yeah, I did.
It's the let the past die, kill it if you have to. That's the theme of the movie, and people can't do that. They have to hold on to their 40-year-old action figures, like I do, but that's where they're at, and they can't move past that. And these are the same people that hated the prequels. I guarantee it.
Oh, I'm sure.
George Lucas raped my childhood. Shut the fuck up.
But it's just like with music. Any band that's been around for a while, like 5 or 6 albums in, everyone's like, oh, I hate that album. And then they'll go to the concert and go nuts when that song comes on, know? And then the next time around, they like that album, but they don't like the next one. It's the same thing. In order for Star Wars to really continue to put out the content they're putting out, they gotta advance the story. And recycle it.
Carrie Fisher died. Mark Hamill's not going to be around forever. Harrison Ford is clearly at the nadir of his career. So,
Get me out of the Star Wars. I got to go talk to a dog.
Talk to a dog. That's the name of this episode.
What if The Force Awakens is why he ended up doing this movie? Because he was so done with Star Wars. He had moved on, and then he, just came back, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing things again.
Well, he had moved on 40 years,
right.
After he wanted to die in Empire Strikes Back. So I'm very surprised he came back for The Force Awakens. I feel like,
I am more surprised he did the dog movie. That really does shock me because he just kind of has that, no, I'm good. Or at least he appears disinterested sometimes. Like even in Anchorman 2, as good as he is, he's like, he doesn't know where he's at. He hadn't seen the other one, but it works. He actually looks like he's trying in Call of the Wild to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Cats.
Meow. Even my niece is a huge Taylor Swift fan. Loves her. I said, so are you going to see Cats? And she's like, I don't know. I think this might be a misstep for her. She's 13. And she goes, I think this might be a misstep for her career. Because she really looks really weird in it. And I'm like, they all do except for Jason Derulo. He's somehow kind of still hot.
He kind of looks like a rock star dressed as a cat. It's weird.
Yeah. Have you guys, the show on Hulu with, it just came out. I am completely blanking on the name, but Beth Grant, do you know who she is? The character actress?
I do
She's
not.
She's been in tons. She was in Donnie Darko. I want to talk about Sparkle Motion. That lady? She plays a cat lady with a giant cat head.
Oh, is this Dollface?
Dollface, thank you. Yeah,
I watched one episode of that.
Yeah, and that's still better cats than these cats.
It's going to be around an award season, though. You need that musical every couple years.
I'm getting an Into the Woods vibe out of this, though, and that was a real piece of shit.
Really? I never saw it.
Really rapey Johnny Depp.
Oh, so just Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to see it. I suppose if it's in the award conversation, I'll have to at some point, but...
That's probably the only way I'll see it, if it gets nominated, because I try to see all the nominated films. But I look at this cast, and it's one of those movies where I'm like, this is such a good cast. But why are they all dressed like that? Or CGI'd like that?
Yeah,
it's really weird.
And then you throw in James Corden and Rebel Wilson. I like both of them for what they do, but they do
That's all they do.
Right. It takes us down. It takes it a little less seriously when they're in it, I think. Maybe they'll be great. I don't know. But even in the trailer, they play themselves in there.
Even if they weren't there, could you take this seriously?
It would. No, not really. But it definitely makes it more like, okay, they're. I don't know. It seems like miscasting. Like I wouldn't put them in this movie.
I watched Les Mis again this week because I'm writing about it, and Tom Hooper directed that, and everybody thought it was going to be a disaster, and it's one of the most incredible movies I've ever seen. So I keep trying to hold back on Cats and try and be positive about it, but they keep putting out these trailers, and they just look like garbage. I can't get past how silly everything looks.
I feel like it's one of those movies that the trailers look like garbage, but you'll eventually see it and you're like, oh, why did I sleep on this? But the trailers look like garbage.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see it.
I was sitting here thinking like that, but then Jennifer Hudson's going to sing Memories, and I'm going to fucking lose it because she's amazing.
It's Memory. Hello.
Whatever.
See, my mom listened to that crap, so even if it's great, I'll just be like... Although, we'll get to it, but in fairness, you were all that high on A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood trailer when that came out, so you never know what happens. Little Women.
Okay.
You wanted to talk about
I have never read this book. I have avoided all these movies, but I saw the trailer, and I saw the Greta Gerwig and the cast, and I gotta say, I kind of want to see this movie.
Yeah.
Except Florence Pugh talks like her accent in this movie sounds like she's from Brooklyn or something, and she's just trying to be hey, what are you doing? I'm a little woman, okay?
Yeah, I'm with... In terms of the cast and Greta Gerwig, and that makes me like, oh, okay. Especially if I just saw it on paper. I don't care about period pieces. I don't care about the story. So that's more where I'm struggling at. I'm sure, again, this probably might hang around during awards season. And, the cast is phenomenal. Every movie they've done lately has been really good. So I'm curious, if nothing else. I don't know. I hate watching people in old-timey clothes.
What if they had a heavy metal soundtrack behind it?
And Cosmos, whatever his name is, Panos Cosmatos directed it. Yeah, I'd be all over it.
I just find myself during any period piece just kind of wondering just how bad do these people smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes how did they shave like that? That's pretty specific.
Straight razors. But do they know they smell because everybody smells that way?
I don't know.
Were goatees a thing back then? Those are, yeah. But yeah, those are our trailers.
I want to...
Deeply insightful that was.
I want to bring up another trailer. I can't even remember the name of it now. I just saw it. But it's one of those, uplifting stories of adversity where it would like God isn't dead, that kind of thing. And I actually would rather see that than Call of the Wild. And I hate those kind of movies. I hate, I just can't stand them. I would rather see that.
I hate when they combine those movies. A lot of the dog movies have been that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I'm with you.
I saw it and I'm like, oh, it's, a Christian movie. And it has an uplifting message about adversity and pain. And, yeah,
Was it the one about the country singer?
Yes.
With the girlfriend or the wife who's got cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they showed the entire movie in the trailer. She's obviously going to come so close to death, and then the power of Jesus will resurrect her for him, and it'll be a story of the ages. But I'd still rather watch that than this dog movie.
Frozen 2.
How'd it do?
127 million.
Nice. And deservedly so. This is a hell of a movie. Frozen 2 is a movie I didn't think they could make because I didn't really see much sequel potential. I knew they would do it, because they're going to cash in on the IP, but I didn't think there was any story really to tell here. And they found one to tell. Elsa starts hearing this voice, and it's calling to only her. And she's got to go find it in this enchanted forest that's surrounded by this impenetrable fog, except she can go through it because she's got magic. And she takes Anna and her friends with her. And they find inside this group of people who are separated from the rest of the world, but who used to be soldiers for Arendelle and the people they were opposing. And there's this big secret that the secret behind her entire family and behind her own existence. And really solid, except really well told. The animation's incredible. There's this water horse that is one of the most impressive pieces of animation I think I've ever seen. And the music is really good. The message is really good. The humor is fantastic. Olaf, Josh Gad, really tremendous voice performance. Every time he was on screen, kids were just delighted. Just you could hear just the absolute ripples of delight every time he came on screen. And what more could you ask of that?
I saw nothing on this movie in terms of advertisements and stuff. My kids watched the first one. Now they're older, don't care. So I didn't have to go see it. I did have a niece and nephew spend the night last night, and I was going to take them, but my in-laws asked me not to. They want to take them on Wednesday. So I didn't go see it, and I was, honestly, when I saw that number, I was shocked. I just kind of figured that the crowd that watched the first Frozen grew up, everybody got sick of Let It Go, and then this would fail. But
They
apparently
let it go.
not. Clearly. So I guess that's good that they made Field of Dreams as Frozen 2, but that's all I could think about when you're describing it. Sorry.
I had never seen Frozen until Thursday night. When you guys invited me here, I was like, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to see Frozen 2, I should probably see Frozen 1 so I know what I'm getting into. You don't really have to. It's one of those movies where it's like, it's so in pop culture that you kind of know who's who. And but I saw it, and what I liked about Frozen was it wasn't about some prince coming to, save a girl. The girls were independent and could save themselves and did. And I really enjoyed that. Going into Frozen 2 on Friday morning, I thought, how are they going to sequelize this? It doesn't need one. It really wasn't set up for one. I think they did it kind of as a one-off, and
Right.
Everything Sean said, I enjoyed Josh Gad a lot. I hadn't really, didn't really know that much about him. Jonathan Groff, I think he, his song was good. He's a decent vocalist anyway. Being a homosexual, of course, I love Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell. Why did I almost called her Kristen Stewart? Sorry. But I don't think the songs were as strong because Into the Unknown was a good song, but that was trying to be this one's Let It Go. Mm-hmm. And I think, quite honestly, they could have reprised Let It Go at least towards the end of the movie and kind of tied it all together.
Right.
Because Into the Unknown is a good song. It's just it doesn't have that catchiness.
And yeah, that is the only complaint I'd have is that the forced attempts at trying to recreate Let It Go don't quite work for me, but the music is good enough.
I will say that the scene with the Earth Giants was incredible. It was the animation, and I'm not an animation person. That's why I avoided Frozen for so long. I just was really struck by their design. They kind of look like the Thing from Fantastic Four, and the way they moved was really natural and looked like they just had photographed it. It was really good
and well integrated into the plot as well.
Yeah.
No, it's cool that it did well. I mean, to your point about Frozen, I mean, we all liked it when it came out. I remember my daughter was at perfect age where it was like on all the time. So I don't know. It definitely got old and I got sick of it quick. And to your point about it not being a typical princess story, and on top of that, it wasn't. You don't even necessarily notice that. It wasn't preachy. They don't throw it in your face. It was just kind of very organic, which almost makes it more powerful to me when you can do it without it being, the Avengers and all the girls get together and fight, which it's cool in Avengers, but clearly you know what they're doing there because some characters are in different areas when they go to that fight. But it was really, I don't know. I like that about Frozen. And I'm interested in Frozen too. I haven't had to go see it. So.
It's worth seeing. I'm a man in my 40s, and I saw it at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning, surrounded by like single parents and their children, and I felt really creepy. But I was totally into it, and I really don't know how you take kids to movies. I just don't understand it because. And do it all the time because you have to watch these inane troll trailers and Will Smith.
I don't take them to those movies. Take them to Ford versus Ferrari.
I feel like see that I want to take my nieces to horror movies, but my sister frowns on that. But I think I think that's one of the reasons I resist movies like Frozen and Frozen 2 is because there's so much animation stuff out there that's just for little kids, but right. I think this is something that, like I said, I'm in my 40s and enjoyed it.
Right. No,
not just because of Idina Menzel, but
no, I agree. It's almost to the point where it's like, why do we even review the troll trailers or the troll movies or Emoji Movie? Because they're not even trying to impress a critic. It's clearly for kids without any real effort. I mean, it's like an Adam Sandler movie in a way. It's for a specific audience that we don't need to talk about on this show, but we still do.
Those kind of movies are critic proof. I mean, right. they're not for critics at all. They're not for adults. They're for adults who need to take their kids somewhere to just make them be quiet for a while.
There are two kinds of, I guess, schools of criticism. There's the art side of the criticism, and then there's the consumer side of the criticism, and sometimes a critic does need to see these movies to kind of tell parents, you know what, this one's not very good for your kid, this one is, that kind of thing.
Right. I just feel like sometimes the animated movies, if it's not, Up or Frozen or WALL-E, if it's not that good, that they tend to just be like, nope, don't bother with the Chipmunk movie. I'm like, they're gonna love it. It's perfect for the kids. It's a shitty movie, but kids love it.
Well, and that's like movies like Smurfs and Alvin and the Chipmunks and stuff like that. It's just we own this IP, and why are we just letting it sit here? Let's do something with it.
Right.
And that's, the majority of movies today.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. When we're done with this part, I will. I want to talk about something that I found really interesting about that very thing. So.
Well, go ahead. I got nothing more.
Well, I read a headline. I tried to read the article. It wouldn't pull up. But Us is the only movie this year in the top 10 earners that's not a sequel or an existing IP. And that speaks to the power of horror movies, I guess.
Right.
And how that's... We think that it's like a horrible genre that, nobody wants to see it. It's just popcorn movies, whatever. But when that happens, you get Us. You get Hereditary. You get Midsommar. Those kind of movies. And when Frozen 2 is something I want to see, even though it's, that it's just because it's pop culture and it's like, it's in there. It's in your head. But movies like Smurfs and all that, it just shows that there's not a lot of original ideas that really grab you the way something like Us or Midsommar does.
You have to get down to 15 to get to the next non-IP movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Otherwise, It's like John Wick, How to Train Your Dragon, Secret Life of Pets, Pokemon. Then after that, you still got Shazam, Aquaman, Dumbo, Glass.
At the very least, Midsommar is the highest grossing movie among people with taste.
Well, I'd say Us. Us is really good.
I loved Us, so I was. But it's with the discussion of all these animated films, and a lot of the ones you just named are, animated or a mix of animation and live action, but they're all quote unquote family movies that you take your kids to because you saw the same thing when you were a kid, just like Star Wars, just like, all that. You loved it when you were a kid, so you want your kids to love it. When you should really, instead of taking them to the Pokemon movie, you should be taking them to see Us and Midsommar. I mean, kids can handle those, right?
Yeah. It's all your fault in my life because I could have been cool. I could have been like Bob and hated Star Wars and never saw it if it weren't for you.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't see it. I resented the fact that it was. Well, one, it changed cinema. Let's not. I mean, and it changed it. You could argue for the worst. Roland Emmerich doesn't exist without Star Wars. But it also, it's I don't know. It wasn't that I hated it. But in the top 25, there's 4 movies that aren't IPs. Can you name them? Good to get. We know the 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Us. There's 2 more. You'll never get them. The Upside, the Kevin Hart movie. And then Hustlers, the stripper movie. Although was that a book? Or is that, maybe that wasn't
No, it was an article.
Right.
Yeah.
So does that count as an IP?
No. Because it's its own thing, really.
Which I had a similar experience with Hustlers I did with Frozen 2. I'm a single 40-year-old male walking to the theater by myself. I'm like, oh my God.
I wanted to stand up because it was a lot of women when I went. I went on a Tuesday afternoon, I think, and I walked in. There was a few groups of women, and I kind of got a couple looks at me, and I wanted to just be like, hey, I'm gay. But just so they wouldn't look at me funny. I think they expected me to, have a large popcorn and...
Right. No, I walked in late, and right as the movie started, I'm like, oh my God, they think I'm at the Jennifer Lopez stripper movie. That's not what this is. Okay. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yes, Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers, and I was notably skeptical about this trailer and about the ability of Tom Hanks to get into this role. And what I loved about what Marielle Heller does in directing this is that she immediately takes that feeling off the table by placing this within the realm of a fantasy, pretty much. We're talking about a fantasy episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And because we start with him introducing the character of Lloyd, played by Matthew Rhys, and as his new friend, and starting to tell his story about where he is in life and how he's going to come in and meet Mr. Rogers. And I loved that. I immediately okay, that is a really great way to take that idea of fantasy, placing it in a fantasy element, takes that off the table. You don't have to worry about trying to believe in him as Mr. Rogers. You can just forget about that and just immerse yourself into it. The first transitions early on, the editing transitions are done in the style of Mr. Rogers. So you've got the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood sets taking you from one scene to the next. And that is a bold choice. That is you could really fuck up a movie with a choice that bold. And I love that. I love that she took that chance, and it worked on me. And really everything about this worked on me. The bold emotionality of this movie is really fantastic. The forcefulness of Mr. Rogers in conversation is fascinating. The way he continues to drill down on the emotional side while also still remaining gentle and remaining relatable. He's also, tell me he's just trying to drill down on your emotions in a way that is really fascinating. And he's got a very unique conversational approach that really is rather fascinating to watch. And I thought Tom Hanks captured that extraordinarily well. Matthew Rhys, though, the boldest decision of all is that this is his movie. This isn't Mr. Rogers' movie. Everybody's looking at this thinking that's the Mr. Rogers movie. It's a biopic, right? No, this is Matthew Rhys's movie. This is about him and his emotional journey. He's got a new child. He's got an alcoholic father played by Chris Cooper, who's incredible. He's got a job that he's struggling at now, even though he doesn't realize he's struggling at it. And I just love the way they set him up and then put him in a room with Mr. Rogers, of all people, and the way that those two energies are going at each other. And it's just absolutely awesome. I was blown away by how great Matthew Rhys is in this. I've never seen episodes of The Americans. I don't know what he's like as an actor, but I was really skeptical of him, especially at the when they cast him and put him in this movie. And I didn't even recognize him in the trailer who he was. And now I've seen the movie and I'm like, this guy deserves an Oscar. A lead actor Oscar, not supporting. Yeah. He is the lead in this movie.
Yeah, it really is his story. I also liked the transitions, how they built him up like his neighborhood. You see New York, you see Pittsburgh, you see all those, you see the... and then it cuts to live action. You're like, wait a minute, is that still a miniature? No, okay, it's the real thing. But I'd never seen Matthew Rhys. Has he played Bobby Kennedy before? Because he really should.
I don't know.
Oh my God, that took me out of it a little bit. I kept thinking he looks just like Bobby Kennedy. What's going on?
That's funny.
But it really is his movie. He is the lead. I expected a biopic of Mr. Rogers going into it. I thought it would be bookended with his story, and they'd sit down and talk, and he'd go through. No, not at all. Not at all. Very, very well handled. I still struggle with getting past Tom Hanks as Tom Hanks. Whereas I used to not when he was younger, but I think that he looks so different than Mr. Rogers, even though they tried to, Rogerify him, I guess, for lack of a better term. It still was a little jarring sometimes. I was like, it wasn't until the end where I really saw Mr. Rogers. And I never watched it as a kid, so I don't have any point of reference as far as, except for some of the clips that you see. But I thought the cast was phenomenal. I really want to see the trailer recut as a thriller, though, because you look at Mr. Rogers in this movie and you're like, he's got to have like a dungeon in his basement or something.
Oh, stop. Come on, that is the lamest Mr. Rogers joke that everybody makes.
No,
he's got a dark side. Oh.
I only mean it because of the way he plays it. Like I said, I don't have any history with him, but the way he plays it, sometimes I can see it cut like the Mrs. Doubtfire trailer cut as a thriller, that kind of thing. I could really see happen, because it's like, is he that good? Is he that good of a person? And yeah, he was. I mean, he was just.
Well, that's almost the whole point of the movie. I mean, all the interviews, he's trying to find that darkness. He's trying to find that thing, and instead he finds himself. But that's what he's going for too. I mean, he's looking for, okay, you have a bad day. What's your bad day like? And it's like, I just pound on the piano.
And then when he does, you're like, oh, he's alone. Something.
Right.
Miss Girl is dealing with some demons up in here.
But I think he probably messed up playing the piano, and that was his way of dealing with his demons, and it's that simple. Yeah. But I was shocked when Sean said this movie was amazing and bold and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't even know how that's possible with a Mr. Rogers biopic. And I'm like, I guess I have to see it. I wasn't going to see it this weekend. And it sure is. I mean, there's so many ways this movie falls apart and sucks. I mean, there really is. And it could also be that gentle and pleasant movie that in a lot of ways it is, but it's so uncomfortable getting there that it doesn't feel gentle and pleasant. It's a really, really good movie. I mean, I'm dealing with a kid right now who teachers think he has ADHD, doctors think he doesn't, and it's, all he knows is there's something wrong with him, and it's just like, you go watch this movie. You just kind of accept what's wrong with you. I don't know. There's a lot of things that really rung true for me, and it was a really cool experience. And I think everybody should rush out and go see it. Now comes the point where do you rank it in your top movies of the year? It's like, it's Spotlight versus like what was it, Gone Girl that year. They're two totally different movies. You got Midsummer, this piece of art, and then you got this great straight ahead story that was told really well. I don't, obviously I like the art piece better, but it's hard to deny that this is a great movie.
This one, Midsummer's still number one. Then Jojo Rabbit and this one are neck and neck for the two other great movies this year.
They're just so different, though. It's this is so straight ahead, and those are even Jojo Rabbit. They're just it's just art versus.
What's amazing about my reaction to this movie was that one of the things I took away from the conversations with Mr. Rogers was perhaps insecurity is just the lies that you tell yourself or you tell other people, and the idea that those things could be found out.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to compare this to a movie that you're going to laugh at me for, but when I
laugh at you anyway. But.
I know. But this and Joker are the two movies that kind of made me look at myself. The Joker really puts the mirror back at society, but if you're watching it the right way, I think you're looking at yourself and what's my role in this, And this did the same thing to me, just on almost the polar opposite level. I mean, a lot of ways it's the anti-Joker, but they both kind of had the same reaction to me. For me, where I just find myself questioning decisions I've made, looking at things I'm doing wrong, and trying to, I don't know, better myself from those two movies.
Yeah, I was worried that at certain points that this was going to go towards the idea of you need to just forgive everybody who's ever done anything wrong to you. And that's not the message here. It seems like it's coming up to that, and they pull back from that. And and it's much more specific in this case. And if somebody earns that back, if they're willing to work to be forgiven, then you forgive them.
Yeah, there's forgiveness for yourself and forgiveness for somebody else that you want to still keep in your life for as long as they have or you have or whatever. But I really thought so too. I was like, oh God, don't give me this. Come on, No. But then it was tied to a specific event, and that I really enjoyed.
Oh, that was incredible what Matthew Rhys does. Whew.
Well, and especially like I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and we always had a kind of an adversarial relationship because we were different people. And you think about some of that when you're watching a movie like this, like, all right, if we were in a perfectly good place when he died, but it was for a long time before that, it was like, oh, just, I know he was thinking, just shut up, I don't want to hear it. And I was thinking, just shut up, I don't want to hear it. And you go through the stages of that after you feel the guilt. And he was feeling that guilt. The father was feeling the guilt beforehand. And the son kind of felt the guilt right at the end, as opposed to having to carry it with him because he never, makes up with his father or anything like that. So.
Right. And even if you're not going to forgive the person, I think the message is like, learn to accept who they are. If they don't want the forgiveness, then you're never going to get there. But if you can accept that that's just who they are, then you can kind of move on with your own life and not have to. And
the darkness of your own emotions is oftentimes something you invite into yourself.
Right, you can control all that stuff. You just have to get to the point. You have to find ways to control it, and it's hard. Mr. Rogers did it somehow, and it is weird. You keep looking for something wrong, and there's really not. I could see. You would think he'd be a guy that would almost be unlikable, but at the same time, everybody loved him. He's in a train, and the whole train starts. I can see that's happening in real life. I'm sure it did.
Happen.
Did it? That's what I didn't have time to look and see. What parts were based on a true story or what parts were
based on an article by Tom Junod in Esquire, and that most of the stuff is fictionalized. He did the stuff about the dad and all that stuff, but that part specifically, and the part where Mr. Rogers once asks him to close his eyes and think for a minute about the people who love you
or who made you by their love. Yeah.
That's true, but he did that at an award show while he was accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award in front of an entire crowd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a hell of a movie. You should really rush out and go see it.
How'd it do?
I don't know. I have the yearly stuff pulled up at the moment.
Well, it wasn't on 40 screens in every theater like Frozen was this weekend. I went to look at the times that I could go see it on Friday, and I was like, oh, I could literally go every 20 minutes.
Frozen was sold out through 6 p.m. this evening.
Wow.
13.5 million.
That's it?
Yeah, for the
Wow.
weekend.
Well,
Yikes.
I mean, there's no way it's one of those movies that will sit in the theaters for a couple months.
Yeah. It's got to be a little off of what they wanted, though.
Yeah, but it's up against Frozen, so there's nothing is gonna.
Yeah, that was
Come
probably
close.
a miscalculation.
I don't see the budget.
Like the Cats movie.
I have no
Let's-
idea what the budget is on it, so it's hard to know that either.
Right, but I mean, they had to have been expecting with the way that Mr. Rogers has been kind of resurgent in popular culture, and with Tom Hanks in that role, that people have been anticipating this for a while. I got to imagine they were hoping for at least 20 for an opening weekend. To come in at 13 has got to be a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, but I think it'll hang around with a decent Thanksgiving run.
Yeah.
Here's hoping that.
I mean, I know my parents who don't go to movies are planning on going out and seeing it, and so I don't know. It's
The showing that I went to, the majority of the couples were at least over 50. I didn't see anybody who. I saw maybe one couple who was much younger, and the girl she was just on her phone the whole time. He must have wanted to see it, and she was on her phone the whole time. But everybody else was older, so because he hasn't been around for almost 20 years now. I don't
right.
know,
I mean, I think he
died.
had he's died not that long ago, right? Like in the last 5 to 10 years, isn't it?
I'm not sure when it was.
But I remember he kind of came back when September 11th happened, and he popped
Yeah.
up and did some stuff. But after that, he was pretty quiet until that documentary came out. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously when he passed, but
I think, I feel like his original audience is kind of older. So this is a movie that it'll stick around because people will buy tickets for it throughout the holidays.
right.
So
Died February 2003.
Oh wow!
So, yeah,
so it has
it's-
been a long time.
it has been longer than I
I thought it was post 2010.
see. That's my point. Is we don't pay attention because
The Mandela effect. He stayed alive for you. Well,
Didn't you say that wasn't true? A
it's
real
not
thing?
true. It's totally made up bullshit.
Yeah, but anyway, go see it, and we can move on. 21 Bridges.
21 Bridges is Chadwick Boseman playing a New York cop, and directed by a guy named Brian Kirk, who's a TV director for the most part. And I'm pretty hard on TV directors on this show. I have been in the past. And I got to say, he does direct action and suspense really, really well. I think the problem with 21 Bridges is a script that really lets down pretty much everybody. Because it has no theme and it has no arc. Chadwick Boseman begins the movie as this badass but ethical cop who is kind of like the anti-Dirty Harry. He's like a guy who's he's a badass. He'll kill people if he has to, but he's not he's not Dirty Harry. He's not he's not that cop who breaks all the rules to get the job done. This is a cop. This is a post-Ferguson. Like Dirty Harry, who follows the rules but still manages to catch bad guys.
He's like Riggs and Murtaugh together.
And he's got to chase down these two guys who are played by Stephen. Oh shoot, Stephen Fisher. I forgot his name now, which is awful because he was amazing just last year in a movie. And Taylor Kitsch is the other guy. They're two guys who think they're going to go rob just a small amount of cocaine from this drug dealer. Turns out that there's more than $5.6 million worth of cocaine where they go. And the cops are there. And the cops are there for a very specific reason because they know the coke is there as well. Where that's going, you'll have to see for yourself. But The thing about it is that there's this other, there's three prongs to this story. You've got these two guys, these two people who are going to steal drugs and sell them off, and these two guys are trying to get out of the country. They're former military guys who just want their little piece of the world. They can get a couple $100,000 and get out of the country. You got Chadwick Boseman trying to catch them, and then the third leg is this group of corrupt cops who are really the weakest link. They're very, very underdeveloped. They put Sienna Miller and J.K. Simmons in there, and they're really great. You don't know which side they're on throughout, but the whole corruption thing is so underwritten that it never really comes off very well. And you're much more interested in watching the cat and mouse game between Chadwick Boseman and these two characters. That's far more interesting than what's going on with that aspect of it. It's just really underdeveloped, and it's unfortunate because the entire third act, big major action scene kind of rests on that. Then they really kind of let Chadwick Boseman down in this final confrontation, which is a really great direction, great piece of direction. They really does an amazing job with the space and the suspense and the violence of this final showdown. But you say to yourself, well, wait, what's he doing here? What is he thinking going to this place at this time? It doesn't make any sense. He's smarter than that. And so because they didn't develop the logic, this movie's like 2 or 3 rewrites away from being pretty good. Instead, it's out here now, and it's okay. Chadwick Boseman's really good.
Stephen James,
yes, thank you.
If Bill Street could talk.
Yeah.
Who's the actual real person that Chadwick Boseman is playing this time?
Oh, man. It's 42.
Thurgood Marshall, yeah, I know. Black Panther, obviously real.
Yeah. He played Huey Long, right?
I don't know.
Huey Long of Wakanda, Illinois.
Yeah, I didn't go see it.
Huey P. Newton. I don't know my Hueys. Sorry. Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yeah, Huey Long was John Goodman.
Yeah, I'm thinking Huey P. Newton now. Is that
I didn't go see it, so
I didn't either. The trailer just looked horrible to me. It just looked like what you just described about it being underwritten just came across in the trailer for me. Let's close down all the 21 bridges in Manhattan is not a real thing. I'm sorry.
First of all, there's like more than 21.
Yeah,
right?
I live there. This is not going to happen. The only way this is going to happen is if the cops are going after them specifically to get this coat. That's the only way, and that's still not going to happen. It's just I saw that trailer and I was like, yeah, maybe when it's on Hulu or Netflix or something, but it just did not interest me. And when you told me what the movies were for this week, I'm like, I'll go see Frozen. I probably will see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. 21 Bridges, nope.
yeah, if you maybe had a director I knew behind it, because I like the cast.
Yeah.
Even like I'm a Friday Night Lights guy, so I like Taylor Kitsch too. I don't know if anybody else likes him or not, but yeah, the cast is great. And if I had known who the director was and the trailer looked a little better, I probably would have tried. But yeah, I'd like to see Chadwick Boseman, be outside of Black Panther success. But I don't know how this one did either.
9 point something million, I think. Not great.
You got Mr. Rogers out there taking Chadwick Boseman and pretending he's Loki and he's the Hulk and he's just smashing him.
Actually, Elsa's doing that to both of them.
Elsa's doing it. She's like just with ice and shit.
And then you watched a documentary, I don't know why, from 2017 called Come On, Feel the Noize.
Because it's only being released in America now.
I know. But it's like isn't it like stock footage of old interviews with famous rock stars?
It is really lame. Yeah, this is a really terrible documentary. It's a German-produced documentary that the big draw of it is that they've got old footage from German TV shows that these guys performed on, these well-known bands performed on. And I guess it's supposed to be about how heavy metal came about, but I don't know, Blondie's in this movie. How the fuck does that work? They spend a lot of time talking about, like, there's a whole segment dedicated to Sweet. Are they heavy metal? I don't know what heavy metal is. This movie doesn't know what heavy metal
But
is.
the fact is, you have these artists who don't know they're in a movie. So you're using old stock footage and interviews and whatnot to try to prove your point, and they're not helping you, so you're just kind of making something up as you go.
Yeah, I didn't know Nikki Sixx had a band called 6 a.m. I had no idea. They figure prominently in this with a lot of interview time.
Almost too prominently from what I've read.
Is the AM for after middle age?
Fortunately, no, but it should be.
Somebody named Michael Monroe gets a lot of interview
He's
time.
Huge.
He's huge.
Oh, yeah. He's not to waste time on a movie podcast, but Hanoi Rocks was going to be the big band, and then Motley Crue's singer killed their drummer, and they broke up. But they were going to be bigger than Motley Crue, most likely. They were the big influence of that era. But yeah, he's like Mick Jagger huge over in whatever country he's in. I mean, he's the big star over there.
Huh. They spent a lot of time on Deep Purple, little time on Black Sabbath, but nothing really insightful. The voiceover is awful. It just sounds terrible.
Is it in German? Is that why you couldn't?
No, it's in English. But
Du stinkst nach Scheiße.
It's just so lame. I mean, it's just colorless. It's just lifeless. It sounds like a PBS commercial. Like it's just awful.
I mean, it would be
Ken
like
Burns, heavy metal.
But it's kind of the equivalent of like I went through all the interviews I've ever done and tried to make a audio movie out of the artists aren't in on it at all, so I'm trying to sculpt something together out of stock stuff that's.
These are all, I guess, original interviews that these guys did.
But through that show, but they were original, but they weren't for the movie. I mean, there's no way these guys were. At least that's what I've read. That didn't appear to be like. They spent 6 a.m. was. That's why they were so prominent. But like James Hetfield and Alice Cooper, whoever else I had in there, they were just they weren't doing it for the movie. They were just taking old interviews. And
James Hetfield's per interview is so strange because they don't even touch on what Metallica. Like they interview James Hetfield and they have him talk about music, but then they don't do a piece on Metallica at all. It's fucking weird. That could have been the part I slept through, though. I don't know. That's possible.
They're still salty about Napster.
What the fuck is a Steel Panther? What is this?
Oh,
shit?
they're amazing.
They are?
Yeah.
I love Steel Panther.
I have no idea.
They are so everything. I don't know. There are these fake guys. I mean, the problem with today's media is that everything's so accessible and there's no mystery. So now you have these 4 guys dressing up as 80s hair bands, being the most sexist, horrible pigs in the world. Girls love it. They're not like that in real life, and it's all an act. But it's working, and they're getting bigger. And it started out as a cover band, and all of a sudden now they're actually having to tour with these bands, and like Motley Crue hates them. It's fascinating.
Maybe Vince Neil should kill their drummer.
But Vince Neil loves them. That's the weird thing.
This movie clearly doesn't get the joke because that joke does not come through in the movie. They just seem like everybody else in the movie.
Oh yeah, they are. I mean, I can see why people wouldn't like it, but I mean, their songs are so dumb. It's like really cool music, and then it's just not even trying to be creative with their lyrics. I mean, it's just full blown crass. But for whatever reason, it just works for what they're doing.
Because there's a moment where I couldn't honestly tell if they were kidding or not. Where the 2 guys from Steel Panther that are interviewed, they just break into "Wait" by White Lion, and I'm like, are these guys kidding or?
They're kidding. I had to interview the singer once, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this because he wouldn't come. He had to do it in character. And he would answer the questions honestly, and then he would end it with something about fucking somebody and doing blow. He would always just he'd curve it there. But clearly, I mean, the guy's cut. He's super in shape. No way he's like 55. There's no way he's on drugs.
Really loved Spinal Tap.
Yeah. I mean, he's better singer than David Lee Roth is.
I guess they were developing a TV show when this documentary went on, but doesn't appear to be happening. I'm amazed they're still around, to be honest with you, based on the environment that things have changed. But I don't know.
Yeah, come on, Feel the
Terrible.
Noize. Don't go
Just
see it.
awful documentary.
Why are they even releasing it?
I don't
Where is it
know.
at?
You got me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't go see it.
Did you just get a screener?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
Copland.
Directed by James Mangold, the man who directed Ford versus Ferrari last week, and of course it's a cop movie, and 21 Bridges came out. And really, it's not easy to find a movie to relate to Frozen, so...
Aside from Frozen.
And that was not going to be the classic. Copland stars Sylvester Stallone as a small-town sheriff in a town that is populated by a lot of cops. Harvey Keitel is the ringleader there, and Ray Liotta as well. And Robert De Niro plays an internal affairs cop who's trying to bust them because he knows that they're using this small town in New Jersey as a kind of a hub for their own corruption. And, it's really... The weakest link, unfortunately, is Stallone for me. I like this movie a lot. I do. I think there's a great story here. I just find Stallone's slow, plodding performance to be proper to the character, but still to a point where it's like I just don't even buy that he's going to wake up at any point. And that's really it. Didn't hold me back as much the first time I saw it, but this time I'm like, and maybe it's just Rambo fatigue. But it was kind of holding me back here because I just all right, just kick into that second gear here. It just doesn't quite get there, even though the rest of the movie is really, really strong.
This was one of those movies, I'd never seen it before. I watched it on YouTube the other night in a small little box in the corner of the screen that like and comment the rest of my 55-inch TV. And it was really hard to hear, but I was standing there paying attention. I was like, okay, Edie Falco. I love Edie Falco. Then there's no more Edie Falco. I'm like,
You see her briefly at the end.
well,
But no, you're right.
I feel like there were threads of a really, really good movie. It was a good movie. It was not one that I would have watched before. Again, yeah, Stallone. I'm finally maturing enough that I can kind of come around and see him as an actor as opposed to Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
And all his like backwards views and all that stuff. I'm just like, ugh, gross. But I watched it with an open mind, and he was the weakest person in this movie, and it's really his movie. I had also just finally, I don't know, somehow 20 years later found out about the Michael Rappaport, Lily Taylor thing on the Mark Maron podcast. So I just literally, he stalked her and yeah, read it. It's delicious. So
he plays Superboy.
Yeah. Watching him, and that kind of took me out of it for a second, but he was really solid in it. He's an idiot, but he's the best kind of idiot in this movie because he doesn't quite know what's going on until he really realizes how bad it's going to be, and then that's where when his character takes a turn. I'm kind of like, all right, I'm kind of with it. I was really surprised to see Janine Garofalo. I mean, in anything now, but back then, and I like her. I kind of wish that Edie Falco had been in Sylvester Stallone's part. I think that would have made for a more interesting dynamic because she's a better actor overall. I just kind of, the whole movie, I kept imagining other people that were in the cast playing his character and how that dynamic would have been. Because, he finally makes that turn to do the right thing, but I kind of almost missed it. Like, missed the part where he was kind of waffling because he's just not that strong in the movie. Whereas he's up against Harvey Keitel and Robert Patrick and all these really stellar actors, and I feel like he's the weakest link.
I would disagree completely, only because I think the movie is over. I don't think it's as good as it should be, but I think it's a bad character. You can put anybody in it. They have to be, the way it was written is he gets bullied by these guys, and so you need to be that. I mean, you can put whoever you want to put in there. It doesn't. I think he acted just fine. It wasn't I think the character's weak. I think the story's weak, and they needed to. You've got all this great director, this great cast, and it should be Goodfellas, Raging Bull. There's all these movies, and it just kind of turns into him. I don't know how you tell it with the story. Almost needed to be told differently, or the character had to be written differently. It's too. I think he was great at what he was doing, but it didn't. He had to be bullied for it to get there, and then he gets there, and the way you establish it is he goes to a fair and he shoots really good. So that's how you get around. Oh, this is why he shot everybody with one shot and got. And you just, I don't know if you need to go darker, if you need to change the story up, but it's just good. It can't get beyond good because of the way that it's written. I just think
Ray Liotta though. Ray Liotta's fucking awesome in this movie. I loved what he does at the end, but even throughout, just the early portion of him just telling Stallone to go home, he's just so lively and charismatic, and you're just like, wait, Cameron, go, he's over there.
But again, it comes back to like, what his character has stopped and turned around? Probably not. I mean, there's just a lot of things that I don't necessarily buy. It's just convenient for the movie that keep it from being great, so it's always just kind of going to hang out at good,
And I'm not sure if it was the one I was watching, the copy that I was watching, but I also felt like the editing wasn't as good as it could have been. It felt like you introduce characters for like 3 seconds, played by good actors, and then you never see them again. And I feel like there's, like, Edie Falco, I feel like she was probably in another cut of this movie throughout the movie, because you don't just put Edie Falco in. Well,
was she Edie Falco then? I mean, she wasn't as famous.
When did that come out?
The mid-90s.
Yeah, she was pretty well. I mean, she'd done a lot of episodic stuff on TV, and she's just a.
Oh, I love everything she's done. But it was like pre-Sopranos and Nurse Jackie, I think. But I didn't really know her before Sopranos personally.
Yeah.
But no, I think 21 Bridges probably suffered the same way. You're putting in like established names because you don't have time to build the characters up, and so you just want to see these names okay, they're important. I don't have time to expound on it, but they're important because so-and-so's in that role.
Yeah.
It's weird. The part that that I forget when I watch this movie is that Robert De Niro's part is so small. It's really
that was a big deal.
Shockingly small. Especially he figures so prominently in the trailer and has the best scene in the movie.
He's also got the worst line in the movie.
Which one?
You got your own little cop land there.
Yeah.
But I love it when they put the title of the movie in the dialogue.
But that scene though, where he gets all, they've taken the case from him, and Stallone shows up, and he's telling him, we had a case and you blew it. He's awesome in that scene. There's so much life there. It's like he is amazing in that moment. It's like, why isn't he in the rest of the movie? Right,
but it never. They would have to do so much to the story and like redo characters completely to me in order for it to work to be on the level of one of the great movies of all time. This is why it'll be okay. It's good. It's fine. It's watchable. But with that cast and that it should be. It should have been way better than it was, and I'll always be disappointed because of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I used to live in Jersey City, and when they shot in the Palisades, when he's going to the party, when Stallone's going to the party, and there's a view, and I used to walk there. I'm like, oh, I think I probably have walked by this. I wish I'd known that when I lived there, because this came out before I lived there. But that was, that kind of kept me engaged in the parts that, I'm like, ooh, are we going to see any more? We're going to see Hoboken. We're going to see Jersey City, Secaucus.
One thing that was weird for me was I'm in the middle of reading Ronan Farrow's book, and Annabelle's obscure or whatever plays a big role in it. I haven't gotten to that part yet. Right now in the book, she's denying everything. But I mean, this is a Miramax movie. What movie was it that, you know, that kind of, I think, I'm hoping, I'm not hoping, but I don't know if this happened before this movie or after, but it was, I don't know, it kind of took me out of the movie. I don't know, probably similar to the way the Michael Rappaport thing took you out.
And that's the bad thing about watching movies that were not really old movies, but old enough that we've had all this experience as adults since they came out. You know what dirtbags some people are. You know, like, what other people went through. And, you know, later you find out, oh, it was this movie. You know, like Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino. Oh, okay, it was this movie. Oh, okay, this happened. And, you know, and it does kind of take away your enjoyment a little bit when you find that stuff out. But yeah, I never even thought about that. I just, because Michael Rappaport was on my mind that day.
It is weird, though. Some movie, like The Shining, for whatever reason, as bad as Stanley Kubrick treated, what's her name?
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall. I still can go back to that movie and get into it. And, you know, you hear all the David O. Russell stories, and I still like his movies.
I feel like if you're going to direct a movie, you have to have a certain piece of sociopathy, you know, that you just need to get it.
Especially the artists.
Yeah.
The ones that are like true artists, they just have, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's okay, but you definitely have to not care about certain things and then address it afterwards, I guess. I don't know. Or watch Mr. Rogers' movie. 89. Anything else on Copland before we move on?
What did Michael Rappaport do?
So he and Lily Taylor were together, and she decided, you know, I think it was when she stopped drinking, maybe, that she was going to leave him. She just didn't want to be with him anymore, and he couldn't handle it, so he stalked her.
She told this story, or he told
She told this story.
Wow.
Well, she was on Marc Maron, and he said, oh, I've been, you know, I do a little bit of research and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, and then she breezed over it a little bit. And then there was this pause, and he goes, so Michael Rappaport. And you hear her just go, oh, shit. Okay, well, it's worth listening to. I love her anyway. I think she's great. But I was listening to it, and I got home, and I'm like, oh, I got to watch Copland while I, you know, do some artwork. So I put it on, and
there's Michael Rappaport, first thing you see.
And then he jumps off the bridge, and I'm like, oh, okay, good. Fuck you, Michael Rappaport. Fuck you. And then, oh, okay, so he's not actually dead.
1989, All Dogs Go to Heaven.
I don't remember it. Do you remember
Another fucking dog movie?
At least it's all animated.
Is this the one with Burt Reynolds?
I don't know.
Well, so is the new one, all animated.
Harrison Ford.
Except for Harrison Ford.
I have no idea. I'm not going to look. Harlem Nights. Remember that one? Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor.
Yeah, I remember that one because it's so disappointing.
Right.
Because
similar to Copland.
You put Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor together, they're supposed to be amazing, and it's not. They don't have as much as they admire each other. You don't sense that they have any kind of chemistry together.
Well, he wrote and directed it. Eddie Murphy did, and he was such a big fan. I mean, he petitioned to be in Godfather 3. He's such a big fan of those type of movies, and here he is wanting to create something that good, and sometimes you need someone in there to help you out, and I just kind of...
I bet he's glad he wasn't in Godfather 3.
Might have improved.
Yeah. Play Sofia Coppola's character. Which I never had a problem with her. I don't know, but... I saw this years and years and years ago. Yeah.
But I want to talk about one thing. The best part of this movie is the poster.
Yeah.
By Drew Struzan, who is one of the people that I look up to as an artist. And I watched a documentary about him not too long ago, and they kept showing this, and I was like, I had no idea. I thought it was a photograph. And then you look at it, and you don't really look at it if you're not super interested in the movie.
Right.
And then I realized it was him, and I really looked at him like, oh, it's not just a photograph of the two of them. It's an actual illustration. And that was the best part of the movie for me.
No, I mean, I'm with you.
Back when posters were good and not just Photoshop jobs. But I'll get off my soapbox.
No, they need that. I mean, my brother's movie ended up on a list of like the best posters of the year because you're right, nobody does real art. He went and hired a guy and paid him thousands of dollars to do it.
Well, and that's the thing is, Drew Struzan is known for, the Star Wars re-releases and all the first couple Harry Potters. He did the Alice Cooper "Welcome to My Nightmare" album cover, that kind of stuff, and that movie posters like that kind of started going out of fashion 30 years ago. It was like, oh, let's just do photos. And then in the 90s, they were all, like the power poses and everybody that was just photographs stacked on top of each other.
Right.
See Scream or Urban Legends. And there's starting to be an appreciation by people like Peter Jackson, Guillermo del Toro, who love this kind of stuff.
Right.
And they want, whether they have to finance it themselves, they have a movie poster that ends up like I wanted to watch Harlem Nights again just because I watched this documentary and it had that poster in it. I was like, you know what? I haven't seen that in like 25 years. Let me, maybe I'll go watch it again. And then I just got too busy packing and stuff. So,
well, I mean, I don't want to. I guess I want to follow up on that. You do art stuff, and like my brother, he goes and buys a bunch of movie posters that are like artists just kind of made their own, and he pays a lot of money for them. And
do you want me to give him my card?
But you can. But you do movie stuff. I mean, you're wearing a Hereditary shirt. I actually had that mug over there. The shirt you got. Nice. Do you copyright? How does that all work? Does that matter? Or
it's one of those things where it's most people are doing such stuff that's so small and not. I'm not making any money on anything I do. I'm actually probably losing money on the time.
Right.
I draw stuff that I love, and if other people love it too, great. Put it on a mug, put it on a T-shirt. There are people like Disney that they really don't want you to do anything. They don't mind fan art and things like that, but I couldn't create 1,000 Star Wars T-shirts and try to sell them to Target. That's
But is there a difference between fan art and then selling at a Target?
Yeah. There's fair use, and it's real. It's so ambiguous in the art world. In the there are like you can play clips if you wanted to under the fair use for criticism doctrine. Or
right, I know you're talking about.
I'm not even using that word right, but there's fair use and there's theft. Most of the time, they're going after people who would just take the Cubs logo and put it on a T-shirt and try to sell that, at Wrigley Field before the show or the game. I don't do sports ball.
Yeah, but you can do a podcast about the Cubs and never put it in your title, and you're fine.
Yeah, it's really ambiguous as far as. It's like porn. Is it porn? I don't know, but I know it when I see it.
Right.
That kind of thing. I couldn't take your logo and
just clip art.
But I couldn't take the Bulls or the Cubs or something like that and slap it on a T-shirt and get away with it. They're gonna come after you for sure. So.
Well, some of the posters you have. They're just really cool, and it's like, how did you even? I know John Carpenter has nothing to do with this.
Well, I bought some artists. Like, there's an artist, Kat Staggs, and she's been commissioned to do posters for like a re-release of The Fog. She did an amazing American Werewolf in London poster that I bought. You do it because you love it, and if you make a couple bucks off of it, they're not going to completely freak out. If you're making $1 million off of it, they're going to be like, hi, give us your,
well, also,
desist.
Too, I mean, Star Wars and Disney aside, I mean, I got to imagine, the A24 people are probably looking at it and thinking, oh, this is cool. That, so, a lot of those, there is that element of it too. I got to imagine a lot of the Carpenter, like my brother's into all those movies, so he's got tons of Kurt Russell bullshit.
What you do is you start an LLC in Mexico that is routed through Russia, and then you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
But
They come after you, just say, "No, Ukraine did that."
Mr. Train. Oh, go ahead.
But returning to Harlem Nights, though, it just occurs to me now, the only thing I ever remember about this movie is just Della Reese goes on and on about her pinky toe. You shot off my pinky toe. Why'd you shoot off my pinky toe? Over and over again. They beat that goddamn joke into the fucking ground.
Yeah, disappointment.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies you want to love because you love everybody in it, and then
Copland. Mystery Train, Jim Jarmusch.
I haven't actually seen it.
me neither.
Me either, and I don't know that I'm going to after the last one.
He's a real acquired taste.
Yeah. Prancer?
I accidentally saw this when I was a kid. I mean, and by kid, I mean 18 years old. Because I was going to school in Denver, and we used to go to this place called Video Warehouse, and we wanted to rent Silent Night, Deadly Night. Well, they thought it would probably be really funny if they put Prancer inside the video case. And, you know, you're in college, and you just throw the movie in, you take it out of the case, throw it in. And I was with two of my friends, and my friend Marcy was like, wait, what's this? And I came back into the room, and I'm like, I don't think this is Silent Night, Deadly Night. She goes, oh my God, it's Prancer. I love this movie. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I had to watch Prancer because my friend Marcy loved that movie.
I only know this movie because Nathan Rabin wrote about it for My World of Flops as one of the more grand debacles of the 80s. This was supposed to be a big family movie hit, and it was a pretty spectacular disaster, and it's a pretty terribly made movie.
Yeah, every time I went to try to go see it as a little kid, or my mom tried to take me, it was sold out. It's ridiculous. Because this 89 was the first year I saw a movie. I went with my babysitter, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and my friend to Batman. My parents had never taken me to a movie, so this was going to be the movie they're going to take me to, and we never got to see it because it was sold out. And if I remember right, Rudolph's not even in it. So
What's the point?
right, exactly.
He's the only reindeer that matters.
Yeah,
He's the only IP you have to pay for.
yeah. They tried to make Prancer matter.
Stop trying to make
Prancer
Prancer happen.
Anything else?
Next week?
Next week, we have Knives Out and Queen and Slim.
So we'll be talking about Star Wars again.
I'll call in. I have no problem.
Our classic is Death Trap. Sidney
Lumet.
That's right. I'd never seen it.
Christopher Reeve is in it.
Yes.
And
Michael
then
Caine.
Michael Caine. And then Back to the Future 2 turns 30. So not a lot of movies, but probably plenty to talk about.
So if you want me to call in, I can, but I've never seen Back to the Future.
Really?
2 or 3.
Wow.
I've maybe seen 2 once. Never.
It's one of the great Donald Trump parodies.
With Biff. I will say this, again, posters by Drew Struzan.
Really?
That's a classic you should have, and I'll come on for that. Drew, the man behind the poster.
Oh.
Everybody, that's a documentary you want to watch. Not this heavy metal bullshit.
I like heavy metal.
I'm not talking about heavy metal. I'm just talking about this
That
documentary.
movie.
Come on, Feel the Noise. How about that?
Yeah, it's a dumb song, too.
My brother loved that song and Quiet Riot.
That's what I thought it was, because I saw the date. Quiet Riot had a documentary not that long ago. I'm like, why are you watching that? Because the drummer is trying to find a singer. That's so dumb.
If you Google "Come on, Feel the Noise," one of the things you find is a question. One of the top searches is Slade Quiet Riot? No, they're not. Slade is an entirely different band.
I'm so glad the internet was not around when we were kids. Although, fandom has always been garbage.
True.
A little story I don't know if Bob knows this story. When I was in high school, I think it was my senior year, there was a New Kids on the Block, show in the Quad Cities or something. So I jokingly made a Humans Against New Kids, or Hank, anti-fan club, and put my post office box in the school newspaper, send for your free membership kit or whatever. I got death threats from 12-year-old girls. So it wasn't just Twitter that suddenly everybody was making death threats. It was the Lance from North Scott High School.
That's funny. I once had a bunch of Adam Lambert people come after me for a long, and I wasn't even mean to him because I like Adam Lambert. I was just kind of like, well, hold slow down. He's not Freddie Mercury yet.
I'm really writing a clickbait article, and people just lose their.
I wasn't even writing. We had started doing clickbait because of this. But we were just like ranking, I don't know, something about people after American Idol, and I was like, well, Carrie Underwood's clearly the most successful. Kelly Clarkson were after that, and Adam Lambert people did. It wasn't even a matter of what opinion; it was a facts of units sold. And they just ripped me a new one, like I was saying he was the worst thing ever. I'm like, he's probably my favorite singer from the show. Don't get me wrong, but they had
Daughtry.
Yeah, fuck him. They had a message board on his website that dedicated to me. It was ridiculous.
Wow. Fandom is garbage.
I still get stuff he does.
I'll still get messages sometimes from Mad Max people going, "Why do you hate this?" I didn't fucking hate it. What are you talking about?
But it did stand the test of time. You were wrong on that one. That is our show. Before we let you go, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. At our character actor, the key grip level, we have Jason Bryant and Charlie Messing. At our character actor level, Cousin Jeff.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Josh and Beth Paul and Christina Cato. At the craft services level, Zach Kofmaker. And then our special effects level, Corey Finneran and Sarah Morale. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon to get yourself a credit on the show. And then check out the merch tab, too, because hopefully we'll be maybe over Christmas when I have the money. We'll either get the Batman versus Jesus. I was going to say Jason. Why? As cool as that would be, though Jesus is better.
To get around copyright, we're going to call him Bat Hero versus Jesus.
Wait, isn't Jesus an existing IP? Shouldn't we?
I think he's public domain.
I would hope so.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully get those in the works here.
It's Mexican Batman versus Jesus. It's a totally different thing.
Just go watch The Lighthouse. It's really good. And yeah, otherwise, like the podcast, check us out on YouTube, subscribe to the show, and give us thumbs up whenever you feel like it, even beyond the ones with the sex in the title.
I'm going to, on my YouTube, or my website, instead of my name, it's going to be like sexpanther.com or something.
Just put sex in the title.
Yeah.
But that's with that Adam Lambert thing I was talking about. Because we got so many hits off of it, the other guy I write with, he just started writing like Scarlett Johansson nude pic leak. And then people go click on it and goes, "Why are you here? You guys are idiots." And it was like, it's funny once or twice, but then I was just like, now you're just trying to get people to, you're pissing people off and we're losing what we're going for here.
How much did he want a website dedicated to him?
And I'm not worried about saying that because there's no way he listens. He fought me on the podcast idea forever.
Oh,
yeah? Recently, you know that meme that's been going around with that lady screaming and the cat? He recreated one of those with his face on both sides of it, trying to, because that's what he does.
You guys should do one with Josh. Sean standing behind Josh like he's Kim Richards, and you're the cat. Something about Star Wars.
I will say Josh is getting harder to troll. Like, he seems to care less. And like Jason Mollett has like all these like in the original toys in their packages from.
Oh yeah, we're friends. I've been watching.
He's having his kids open them, and he's trying to get Josh upset. Josh is like, "Oh, that's cool.
They're fucking Babylon 5. Nobody cares." Sorry, Jason.
What's a Babylon 5?
I don't know. It's something from Queer as Folk. I don't know. That was the nightclub they went to, was Babylon. For any other 20-year-old references, just look me up.
You guys want to play Flick Chart? You guys got to get out of here. It's
good.
been 90 minutes.
I'm looking to skew your results.
All right.
Suddenly, Black Christmas is number one.
It should be. That's why. That's when you should have me on. Is when they do Black Christmas. I will come on and talk about that
making it
movie.
again?
Yeah, they're
Yes.
remaking it again.
Except it's Blumhouse, so the entire movie is in the trailer.
Right.
And you know what? I will make time to come back when the remake comes out. I'll come back and I'll talk all about the original because it's the best movie ever. I think we've done that before, but
It's been a while.
it's been a couple years. Well, at least it's been at least 5 years.
It was early on in the show.
I did that
yeah.
when I was in New York. So
All right. Kung Fu Hustle, Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks.
Kung Fu Hustle.
On Mars Attacks. He's winning already, isn't he? Best in Show, Bedazzled.
Best in Show.
Best in Show.
Yeah.
The movie's amazing. Jennifer Coolidge can do no wrong.
D3, The Mighty Ducks, Commando.
Commando.
Yeah.